Welcome to Walk With Me online. Thanks to Platinum Talent Management, Oz Equipment Rentals and National Make Good Solutions. Wouldn't be able to do this without a lot of their support. So a big shout out to those guys. But very fortunate today. Now I was actually, before you jumped on, Wendell, I was actually explaining how it's our 21st birthday.
Yes, it is.
It was 21 years since we met at the Sydney Olympics, and I told everyone that we did have one of the great days on planet Earth, the day that Kathy Freeman won the gold medal.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And we'll never forget the way that you guys, more in particular, I think it was you and Gordon Tallis, gave a lot of advice to Olympic athletes when we did the tour of the Nike Athletes Village. I'm sure there was a lot of advice about how they should go about their preparation for the Olympics after you'd had a few cans on the boat.
Well, look, Corey, that's probably not the full. Gordy was probably giving advice. I was giving him advice how to enjoy the after party. That'll shock you, okay? So, but I think even later on, Corey, we went to the Last Lap nightclub, and that was unbelievable. But we were lucky enough because our partners got to come. We're all sponsored by Nike, and it was a surreal experience because, it was one of those things where we were lucky because it was obviously yourself. I was a North Melbourne fan, obviously back in the 90s. Loved Duck. I didn't mind you. Glenn Archer, Mick Martin, those guys. And so the league boys, we were excited to meet you guys. So I think James Hird was there, Matty Lloyd. There was Gordon Tallis, Darren Lockyer. And the two guys who were supposed to be there that were in America at the time was Wayne Carey and Shane Warne. I say, what a crew that would have been.
Can you? And I don't think anyone's going to be surprised on this call, Wendell, to find out that James Hird and Matthew Lloyd didn't drink. You'd be really surprised, everyone, to find out that. I remember Gordon Tallis giving the boys some real fine advice about go and get another milk, Lloydie.
Yes. and you know what's funny? Can I just say this, guys? Like, one thing that we do, the league boys in AFL and, the soccer boys, we all respect what we do, Corey, and obviously. Guys, the funny thing was I started getting into James Hird. I was getting into him, and he was like, what's happened here? I said, Hirdy, there's only one real number 5 in Australia, mate, and that's me, mate. Obviously, Queensland number 5, Broncos number 5, and obviously Australia number 5. Have a look at this. Yeah.
Now, where is home nowadays, Wendell? Now, obviously, played with for those that don't know, or you've been living under a rock, that Wendell, played for the Broncos, played State of Origin for Queensland, and then for good measure, got a little bit bored of that, and then he went and played Rugby Union. And then, so where's home nowadays for Wendell Sailor?
So where I was trying to connect, that's Wollongong. So the Dragons, the St. George Illawarra Dragons, their base is here. So where I'm walking now is I'm walking up past, I've gone from the lighthouse at Wollongong. We're going past the Dragons in Wynn Stadium. So when you see the games and the beach in the back, it's a bit like, it reminds me a bit of, Geelong, where you go to Geelong and you see the water in the background. That's what this stadium's like here.
Yeah. Cool.
So it's an amazing place.
It does look like a fantastic place. I've kept on saying I'm going to come down there, but I've never been down there. It does look fantastic. Seen all the pictures of you playing on the golf course. Wendell doesn't mind his golf.
Well, Corey, but the reason why we even bonded even more after that was because you started having those golf days, and you got a few wily characters there, and I was one of those sort of let's just say life of the party characters.
Well, it was quite interesting, everyone. I don't know how. Must be even something about me that I obviously see a lot of good in everyone, but it was quite interesting the press conference that we had a chuckle that you had. There was Wayne Carey, Brendan Favola, Wendell Sailor, and Mark Bosnich.
Can you believe it?
Between them, they all sort of looked at one another, and I think you all had a chuckle at one point about the fact that I think between us we've
morning ladies.
We've had a few little between all of you. You'd had a few little missteps across the journey, but you know what, Wendell, and but I think that's what I think everyone loves about you guys, that yeah, you've had some things that have gone wrong, but more importantly, it's how you've reacted after that. But just on that, what's it like? Give everyone like an insight into when stuff. I was actually thinking about that this morning, that I've probably never really asked you. But when the spotlight's really on you, when something's gone wrong like that, how to just to take someone into like your mindset if you can think back to at the time,
of course.
like what was it like going through all that?
Well, I'll give it the respect that it deserves. So I'll stop for a minute. Look, I think for me, I grew up with some real humble parents. My dad worked on the railway, worked really hard for my opportunities. Mum was so good, did everything for me. But I think for me, I think from a kid who didn't drink till he was 21, and I think sometimes you make some choices, but my mum and dad taught me, if you can make the right choices, just own your mistakes. And for me, there's a couple of times there through my career that I made mistakes, but I never blamed anyone. It's about being accountable. And I think the reason why people forgive and give you a second chance is because you own those mistakes. Yeah. Wayne Bennett said to me, when I came back from my suspension after rugby, he said, Del, the reason why people are giving you a second chance because you've earned it and you're a good person. And for me, when the players get in trouble or something happens, I'm not going to bag players because I've made those mistakes. I work in the game now because I've earned that right. But by the same token, the game's given me so much. So now I try and give back.
It is a very valid point, what you just say there, Del, right? That there are so many, like, how do you feel now when some people, where they rather than own it, and you can see the difference between owning it. And I think all of you guys all those guys I'd mentioned, funnily enough, that whether it was Bozza, whether it was Wayne Carey or even Brendan Favola, that you've all owned your mistakes. You haven't tried to hide behind. Some people have either tried other excuses, but it is quite interesting that you guys have actually owned your mistake, and look how it's then turned out for you all.
But Corey, I agree, but you know what? I haven't walked in other people's shoes. So if someone's making mistakes, I don't know what trauma they've had in their life for them not to own the situation or people to use an excuse as why. But at the end of the day, people make mistakes, and it's about, sometimes you get 2 or 3 chances, sometimes you get none, but it's up to you what you do with those chances. In my life now, I work at Triple M. I love calling the footy. I do the grassroots stuff. I've got great sponsors, but more importantly, I think I've become a better person through that adversity. And that's why I like to get up early, train, either walk, and just be there for my family, because the last 16 months, COVID's taken so much away from me. My mum passed away while we were in lockdown. So it took me 3 weeks to say goodbye to her. I did 2 weeks of quarantine. It took me 3 weeks to virtually bury her. And I don't blame anyone. It just, things happen. So I can't get angry. You know, I wake up and look at this, and I want to be better. I want to be better. And I remember kissing my mum on the forehead saying, Mum, I'm going to be better for you. So I'm trying to be the best version of myself. And look at this. Like, as I say to people, the sun comes up tomorrow, own our mistakes, and just try and be a good person. But look at that. You can't beat that. You know?
And then how vital for you, like I know that you just touched on it then, that you've been, over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, even you'd had some things that have been going on. And then how vital for you, and I know that we were chatting about it, how vital has your structure and routine, and what are some of the things that you can give, let people in on that you do to stay focused, and especially times like now where, I mean, when people hear from advice like you, or the likes of like a James Herder or Wayne Carey, it is pretty powerful advice for anyone.
Look, I haven't got all the answers in, but what I try and do is I try and take, if I meet someone who's a labourer, who's a miner, who works at the coffee shop, if I can take something from them, if I can give them the time of day, which they give me, and I could try and take something from their conversation, I think it's going to make me better. I met a guy one day who said to me, he goes, you know, I couldn't do what you do. And I said, you know what? I said, I couldn't work in the mines because that's not my mindset. If I had to, I would, but that's not what I grew up doing. I studied when I was younger, studied justice. I wanted to be a copper. Would have been the most corrupt cop in the world, I reckon I would have been. But then football's given me so much, but also the entertainment. So I try and take something away from whether it's a corporate event, whether it's a charity event.
And then what about how important's your physical training? Because I don't know whether a lot of you guys, if you don't follow Wendell on social media, I'll tell you what, mate, you're still some of the weights and some of the training that you're still doing. Yeah, well, you're still in super fit condition.
Well, look, I go through stages like everyone. So when COVID first hit 16, 18 months ago, I did what a lot of guys do. So don't think I'm perfect, okay? So I made an excuse not to train for 2 weeks. Okay, the gyms are closed. So to be honest, I wish I would have locked the fridge in the cupboard because my wife and daughter go, hey, Dad, my wife goes, after about a week and a half, I was watching Netflix, I was watching, Ozark, I was watching sports docos, and you'd love this because guys, we're hard on ourselves anyway. My wife goes, hey, babe, when are you going to start training again? And I was like, what? I was going, imagine if we said that to you. Anyway, and my daughter goes, Dad, I don't want to sound rude, but your head's getting a bit big. I was going, what do you mean? She goes, and you know what? Hey, guys, how you going? And you know what? I understood what they were trying to say. For my headspace, it's not just about looking good, but it's for your mind. So we're happy to go to the gym, to work out, to lift, to do cardio, to train, but our mind's the same. So in the mornings, I like to walk. Like I've walked from the lighthouse up there. Up here is this is a stadium here where Dragons play. So that's what I mean for me. My mind is probably more important than probably doing weights, doing boxing. But I like training in a group session because you're only as strong as your weakest link. And that's why it's so important to me.
And what's I always ask a lot of the people that we end up chatting to, what's something that you do that people like is something that people wouldn't expect that you do to look after yourself? Like other than the physical stuff, do you do anything like meditation? Do you is there anything that wouldn't be the normal thing that people would expect of how you look after yourself?
Look, to be honest, I'm a bit old school. If I got a sweet tooth, I've got to learn not to eat late at night. And so I stopped eating late at night. But I think for me, it's not so much about diet because I think the more food and the more stuff I eat, the harder I got to train. So like today, I'll do this session. This is probably the second hour of my walk. I'll do a session about 11 o'clock. It'll be weights and cardio outdoors, one-on-one session, and then later this afternoon, I'll go back out and I'll do some stairs, 20 minutes. So because I'm 47, I don't need to train for a long time, but it's got to be quality. Okay. Yeah. What I try and do is take someone with me, whether it's a young person or an older person or a friend, get out, do the session, and then have a coffee and then have a chat. And that's because, mate, we've all got something going on. You've got to be able to listen and not just talk, which I know, Corey, is hard for me.
Now, I suppose this leads me into the next question, right?
Yeah.
Where have you got your confidence from? Like, where is it did you find it come from a training point of view, or just you just had a real belief in yourself? Like what came first?
Well, look, when I was an 8-year-old, you won't believe this, but I used to be a skinny little Gordon tells me, he goes, I remember watching you in junior footy when you were younger. He goes, I know you probably can't get away with saying this now, but Gordy was on radio and he said this a couple of years ago on Triple M. This is when everything wasn't PC. And can I just say this before anyone blows up? Gordon Tallis is one of my best mates, okay? When my dad died in 2001, Gordon carried my dad's coffin. My wife, which, I know, so he says this with love, and I know we all get too PC, and I shouldn't have to explain this, but we're on radio one day, we're talking, and the boys go, mate, has Del always been like this big and this strong and that? He goes, mate, when Del was younger, He was like those gollywog biscuits. He was real skinny and had the big afro hair, but it was. But back there, so Gordy's dad's Indigenous. My mum's obviously, you know, South Sea Island Indigenous. But everyone was laughing. But like, you know, I was skinny. I went through bullying. Oh, look at that. I went through a lot of racism when I was younger, but I didn't want to let that define me. I didn't want that to be an excuse not to make it. So it's not so much confidence, because I reckon sometimes it masks sort of what's broken inside you. So I used it in a positive way, you know, and that's why.
And then,
yeah.
So what about like, and that's the other, that probably leads into the next one. So when did you first come into like the Broncos? That was around my early 90s. So what?
1993. So 92, I finished school. I made a lot of North Queensland sides, made Central Queensland. I was an opening bowler. A lot of my cricket, I played against Jimmy Marr, Martin Love, and Andrew Simons. So I was a CQ opening bowler for 2 or 3 years, but they always made Queensland and Australia. I could only play CQ. So, but football was my passion because I love my mates. I wasn't the most talented footballer, but bloody hell, I worked hard because I wanted to be the best. And
so what about then, Del, for example, like obviously, hopefully we've gotten a lot better with dealing with racism and, but compared to, I'm thinking early 90s.
Yeah.
What was some of I can only imagine during that period where racism would have been pretty rampant as far as like some of the things that you would have copped would have been just disgusting.
Well, they were. Look, let's be honest, okay? You've been there, Corey. The 90s was a different generation. I personally, look, I think the 90s made me as a youngster. So just quick one, 10 seconds. So we walked from that lighthouse. So there's Wynn Stadium there. That's where the Dragons play half of their games, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And then the Wollongong Hawks play there as well. That's called the WEC. So I will say this about racism. It's 2021. It's not even about being Indigenous or being black or whatever. You could be, you know, you could be, Italian, Greek, even, non-Indigenous. There's racism there too. Mate, we're not getting it right anytime soon. You know, you're watching the soccer players, the NFL players still getting racially vilified. Liz Cambridge comes out and talks. I thought when I went through it that I could make it better. And I'll tell you an honest story. About before lockdown, I was down Bondi Beach with a couple of my mates, Drew Mitchell, his missus, and someone else. We're having a swim. And a guy that I respect more than probably anyone in Australian sport, okay? Sorry, Corey, it's not you. So all of a sudden, one of the boys was walking. It was Adam Goods. And I said to Goodsy, Goodsy, I said, mate, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart that I respect what you've done and what you did, because I've never been brave enough to do that. And let me double down on that. For people who said, oh, mate, it wasn't about the booing and all this. What Goodsy endured, I endured from when I was an 18, 19-year-old kid playing for Australia. When I was playing on the nines, I got called a black so-and-so. I got called a nigger or something. So for me, I use that as motivation. I'm so proud of Adam Goods to make that stand. And I've got to tell you now, I wasn't proud enough. I wasn't strong enough to make that stand. Doesn't it tell you something about our sport when one of the greatest players who played AFL, and I've got to tell you, my two favourite players in AFL of all time is Andrew McLeod, unbelievable. Back to back Norm Smith medalist, and obviously Wayne Carey for different reasons, and then Adam Goods. And look, I've done charity functions with Goodsy. I've spoken to him. He's well put together. Can I tell you what he endured? I respect him even more. He's one of my favourite sports people of all time. And that doco, I haven't watched it all yet, but I work with Jude Bolton, Triple M. I said, what Adam Goods has copped, it wasn't about that moment. It was about every moment in and around that. And for me, from the bottom of my heart, I've got 3 kids who are Indigenous background, and they've copped it as well. So, you know, I never want to go down that road too much. And I've spoken about it at Triple M, but mate, people can think I'm strong, I'm brave. I've broken blokes' arms on TV with arm wrestling. But what Adam Goodes did, mate, I think he changed the landscape of it. But we're still not getting any better for it.
And yeah, like I suppose looking back at it now, like are you a little bit angry at yourself that you like is it more disappointing to you that you couldn't feel the need that you could say something?
No, I'm not angry at myself because I use that motivation to make sure that my family was all right. And I knew for me to make a stand, I had to be bloody brave. And to be honest, I wasn't brave enough. I'm telling you now, I couldn't have done what Adam Goodes done. And to be honest, out of all the athletes, and that I'm good mates with Mickey O'Loughlin. I remember calling Mickey O saying, mate, can you let Goodsy know? Nothing but respect for him. I wish, mate, why do you think some of us haven't come out and said it? Gordon Tallis, Inglis, Mel Meninga. Mate, none of us have been brave enough to say it. Once Goodsy said it, we've all gone, yeah, we've been there. Sam Thaiday, you know?
Yeah.
Mate, I love watching Eddie Betts, you know? But it's not just about the Indigenous players, you know? It's on the other side too, you know? There's, you know, people of Italian background, you know, we got the, you know, I think AFL does it really well, the multicultural stuff. Mate, we don't pay enough respect, I think, to those cultures. And I love watching that. The Polynesian players, the Pacific Island players, mate, they've gone through it, you know?
Yeah.
But that's not, for me, that's a part of sport, but a part of society that we need to fix. We're not going to fix it anytime soon. But if I have to be involved to fix it, I will help. My uncle was Eddie Marbo. So what he fought for was everything so right, but at the same time, I don't get into politics that much because personally, I can't handle politics that much, but it takes a lot from you. So, so I'm happy with what I've done in my career, and I'm happy with what I'm still doing now in and around the kids, the mental health, coaching junior footy. I coached a young bloke yesterday up in Sydney for Playbook. It's Chris Lynn's company. It's a one-on-one session. Obviously, there's a fee to the company, but I had an hour with a young kid named Samuel. His mum was there. His dad was in Singapore. We spent an hour training together. It's a bit of theory and a bit of prac, and I join in. That's my job as a dad, as a person who's gotten so much from Australian sport.
And just on that, like I know that real early days, Wendell, you're an ambassador for Are You OK? And then now you're involved with Gotcha for Life. But Are You OK? I still remember you were really one of the first ones that got on board with that real early days. Before, I would think, in all honesty, I think some people get involved in the space now because it's sort of like, oh, it's the right thing to do. But you were sort of really ahead of the curve by being an ambassador for Are You OK?
Well, to be honest, I didn't want to be involved in Are You OK? Because at the time, I was suspended and I was trying to find the better part of myself. And what made me better is my family and friends. But my mate was Gav Larkin. He was the co-founder. And it was 2008. The Dragons were about to offer me a contract. And he said, listen, he said, I want you to be an ambassador for Are You OK? And I said, Gav, I made every mistake possible. And if you get a chance, Google Gavin and Gus Larkin, Australian story. Father and son. Gus got diagnosed with a brain tumor. Okay. And Gav, he actually got cancer. He actually had lymphoma. So those are the guys who got me off feeling sorry for myself. So when I came back to football, I just thought, you know what? I'm coming back to football. I'm not going to be the player that I was when I got suspended. But what I'm going to be is show people you can make mistakes, but come back from that. So he asked me to be an ambassador, and that's why I'm involved. I do stuff with Gotcha for Life now for Gus Warland and with Jude Bolton. But it's an easy thing for me to do because I've been there. I'm not perfect, but we're so hard on ourselves in society. We've got to give ourselves a break, whether it's young girls, whether it's men, whether it's mums. That's why I try and be real positive. I try and do as much as I can, but at the same time, I've also got to give myself a bit of a break and make sure that I also go and talk to a counsellor and make sure that I'm okay, which I do every couple of weeks.
And that, I think that's a really I'm glad you mentioned it. I didn't want to bring it up. know, I mean, without sort of now that you've opened up, but that's something that you regularly do yourself, where you go and speak to someone.
Yes,
once a month.
Yes, and I've done it for a long time. I go through stages when I'm good, and then I find when I'm getting in a rut, whether I'm working hard, whether I'm there's some things I'm not succeeding at, and I'm just so hard on myself. And you know, it's like anything. It's about attention to detail with my life. So if I'm doing commercials, I'm doing corporate stuff, I'm doing charity stuff. If I do too much, I get a bit of anxiety and stressed out. And I don't talk too much, but then some of my mates check in with me. You know, I see one of our mates there, Robin Bowles. You know, Bowlesy, when I go to Melbourne, play a bit of golf, we hang out. I think I stayed at his one place one time, and you know, he made me he likes making these like lunches and dinners and stuff, and it's good to stay with your mates. Sometimes I used to just love staying in a hotel. You know what? It gets lonely. So now I stay with friends. I go to farms because you've got to get outside your comfort zone now. And it's a two-way street. You know, we need to be there for one another. And that's why I did it. When Mum passed away, as soon as I got out of lockdown and quarantine, I rang a counsellor straight away, a new counsellor, and I just needed to talk. I laughed, I cried. I miss my mum every day, but it's not going to bring it back. So in 10 days, it's a year since my mum passed away. So as Robin knows, and you know, I did 2 weeks in quarantine. It took me 3 weeks to say goodbye to my mum. I'm not angry at what's happened lately, but I'm going to be better for it. And I want people to understand we've all got stuff going on. I know a person whose brother died in New York. It brought him back to Perth because the borders were closed. He couldn't even attend his funeral from Sydney to Perth. You know, can you imagine that? His brother. So we've all got stuff going on. So I don't get angry in life anymore. I just try and make the best of a bad situation. And I've got great friends who love me. I've got family who love me. But more importantly, you just got to be a good person.
Now, what I might do, Wendell, might have time for just a quick 1 or 2 questions from the floor. I think there's still a lot of people. I might even be a question from your old mate Bolsey, or he might get a bit tongue-tied, I reckon.
That's right, sure, no problems.
But if anyone's got any quick questions out there whilst we've got the big guy on.
Nothing's off limits, guys. As you know, Corey, when we do functions and that, we've done charity functions, corporate events. It's like Ian both at that time, one of your functions in CM Newman. When we're on stage, mate, if you're there, anything goes.
Everyone's gone.
Hey, Dal Bolsey.
Yes, mate.
You mentioned that story where you both these guys in an arm wrestle. I forgot about that. Run us through the story. What happened?
Okay, so for you guys in Melbourne and Adelaide and Perth who don't know who I am, I play a little bit of rugby league and union. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a thing where they said, hey, listen, we want to do a charity arm wrestling thing. So, and there was, I think it was 10 of us over 3 weeks. And it was like elimination every week. So the first bloke I took on was Matt Cooper. Matt Cooper, mate, later, mate, bang, you're gone. See you later. One thing about me, I've never been the most talented, but I've always been strong. Lottie DeCurie called me at Wallabies. Lottie DeCurie used to call me Bam Bam because no technique, but just strong. Anyway, so in the final, Ben Ross is an ambassador for RUAK. Anyway, go and have a look at the footage. It's sickening, but so Ben Ross and I, both big guys. I'm probably 5-6 kilos heavier than him. I'm probably 7 years older than him. Anyway, I know what I'm good at, and I've always been strong. I've never lost an arm wrestle. Anyway, we're in the final. And to win the final, you get $10,000. $5,000 for yourself, $5,000 for your charity. So my charity was RUAK. Anyway, as we get to the final, Bo Ryan goes, go. And we arm wrestle, done it properly. And as I beat him, 1-0, I have a break. So 1-0 at this stage, I'm confident it's going to be over. It's going to be over real soon. Anyway, we're sitting in the green room. Ben Ross looks at me and he goes, hey, Del, it'd be embarrassing for you to lose one arm wrestle to me on national TV. Wow, at that stage. You know what they say? Don't wake the beast. Anyway, at this stage, we're getting ready. and he gets an early jump on me. As he gets an early jump on me, we're like that, I'm like that, and something clicked in my head. Like, you know, the competitive nature, Corey and Bowlesy, where you go, okay, I can't lose. And then I started going bang, bringing him back, and then his arm snapped. Apparently, I didn't mean it. I heard this big snap, snapped it in 4 places. But I feel sorry for him. We're good mates. And, mate, yeah, it's just one of those things where I was shattered for him too, because if you Google Ben Ross arm wrestle, Google Ben Ross x-rays, I broke it in 4 places, and it's messy where they went in through it. So I felt really bad, and I was shattered for him. He couldn't pick up his daughter for 6 to 8 months, and he couldn't play golf for a couple of years.
Ouch.
Yeah. How good's that? Yeah.
I don't think his arm thought it was that good.
Hey, Corey, well, one more thing. There's another question. I've got to tell you a good Wayne Carey story. So, Bowlesy, I think you were there. So I think we were at the Emerson or something one night, and Corey flew me in. I think it was for the Swans and Hawthorn. I was in your corporate box. So you flew me down late that night, and I got there late, and all the boys were having a few drinks. Anyway, I was being a bit cocky and that, and having a few drinks, and Wayne Carey, you know, Big Duck was out the bar. And can you imagine me and Duck together, for the boys who are listening or the girls who are listening, me and Duck at the bar together. Anyway, I was having a few drinks and I was feeling pretty good about myself. And Corey's always told me, whatever you do, don't box Duck. I said, I'm not that stupid, because I love Wayne Carey, you know. Anyway, so I'm sitting there having a few drinks. Duck got me a drink, and then we had a shot. This was about, I'm not sure what year it was, but I think it was the last Hawks Swans Grand Final. Anyway, Corey, you know this. Anyway, I said to Duck, I go, honestly, Duck, how would you handle my power? You know, like this. And this is what Duck did. There was his beer there. He picks it up, he drinks it, and he goes, and he looks at me, goes, I just want to run you around a little bit first. And then I'm thinking, mate, too good. And the way he walked off after he said it, it's too good, because for a guy of his stature and his size, unbelievable. And, you know, and that's one thing I respect. And if you talk about second chances in life, mate, I listen to AFL, I listen to Duck commentate, because Bruce McAvaney told me at in the World Cup, I asked him, who's the greatest AFL player you've seen? He mentioned 3 names to me. And this is all in front of the Wallabies. He said, Lee Matthews, Michael Voss, actually Gary Ablett Sr., he said, but the best is Wayne Carey. And that to this day, Wayne Carey is still my favourite AFL player. Don't tell him that, but I think he knows that.
Yeah, no, you don't want to tell him. That's the last thing. He already knows that. But no, look, I think, look, on behalf of everyone, Wendell, I know we had a few technical difficulties at the start, but we got it right in the end, and I know that everyone would have thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, you've been so honest about your journey and your story, and even hearing some of the things about. I think for everyone in Sydney or Melbourne that's been in lockdown, and I think look, on behalf of everyone, a massive thank you. So,
thanks, guys. Can I just say one thing too? Like, you know, I know people out there losing small businesses. People have got friends and family that check in with people, check in with your family and loved ones, but just smile and be happy. And there's so much negativity around. And I'll say this, what we all need at the moment is we all need hope. So whether it's business, whether it's, you know, whatever you're doing, you've got to give people hope, because we need hope at the moment. There's too much doom and gloom. I try not to turn on TV this morning because, you know why? Everything's negative. But what we can control is how we feel and how we act.
Very, very wise words to end on. So I'm sure you'll agree, guys, even just that last little gem from Wendell, very wise words in times like these. So on behalf of everyone, mate, you're looking resplendent in your Kobe Bryant's jersey this morning in Wollongong. And a big thank you for joining us this morning. Very much appreciated, mate.
Thanks, Corey. And I still remember that time that you choked at that Pro-Am. I think you 3-putted. All you needed to do was sink that at Pat Rafter's charity golf day. I think all you had to do was sink a 20-footer, 2-putt, and I think you three-putted from about 10 foot or something.
Three-putted.
Yeah,
Three-putted.
that's okay.
Yes, three-putted.
Mate, I love you, mate. You've been a good friend to me. You've been very supportive over the years. And Robin, you're the same too, mate. So without blokes like you in my life, I wouldn't be doing what I do. So thanks, boys.
No, massive thank you, mate. Good morning.